Welcome to the Underground.
Turn me up, bitch!
My Little Underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. This is the last show of February, which means it's almost time for newsletters to go out. That's right. So if you haven't already, please sign up for the My Little Underground email newsletter. That's over at peteraradio.com/newsletter. Now, I don't think I described what is exactly in my newsletter. So I talk about a lot of the stuff that happened on My Little Underground within the last month, twice a month. And I throw in a song that I just cannot stop listening to. And I think you would appreciate it. Why am I bringing this up? A, to get you to sign up for my newsletter. I'm being honest here. And also, today's show is all about songs that I cannot stop listening to over the last 2 months or so. I'm going to talk about my favorite songs and albums that came out in January and February. It is the first installment of my On Repeat series for 2022. The last time I did an On Repeat, I was in Minneapolis. And I'm kicking off 2022 in my apartment in New York City. So we're going to talk about some of the great albums of January. Kicking things off, Droog and the God Fahim, and their latest collaborative album, The Wolf on Wall Street 2, The American Dream. This album just shows off their very clever wordplay, and there's a lot of New York City imagery going on here. And these two, again, they have great chemistry together. And my favorite track on this thing right now is War of Millions. I can't stop listening to it, and it's everything I just described. Great wordplay, great chemistry, and lots of New York references that I think you would appreciate. I won't spoil it for you. I think you should listen to it for yourself. Droog and the God Fahim. And I think that this is probably the first of many projects from Droog, and possibly, Droog and the God Fahim. There's probably another collaborative album on the way this year, and of course, Droog every year he comes out with 3 or 4 or 5 different albums, which is good. Most of them are pretty good, so that's fine. I don't complain unless it sucks, but Droog has not failed me yet. The second album that I couldn't stop listening to for the month of January, it is the great New York City outfit known as Combo Chimbita. Their third album, Ives, is an album that is just remarkable, and it was a great way to kick off 2022. I think it was the first full-length album that I was anticipating that I fucking loved from this year. Again, this album is just Combo Chimbita doing what they do best. Danceable, psychedelic, tropical futurism, which is what they describe themselves as. And again, I think this album is leaning a lot more into the psychedelic, especially with the album opener, Oya. It's very repetitive and hypnotic. And then there's the very trippy and psyched out second part of Memoria that's just gorgeous. Like, I can't stop listening to it. And if you haven't seen them live, I've said this, I think the last 3 or 4 shows. If you haven't seen Combo Chimbita live and you live in New York City, this is a ticket that you must get, that you must seek out. This is a show you don't want to miss. They are so exciting. You can't unsee what you see at a Combo Chimbita show. All right, moving into single territory. We got the full-length albums out of the way. Velvet Vision, a former guest here on My Little Underground. This is the project of Betty Taylor, and she put out a double single to kick off 2022, Silver City with Strange Magic. Now, the symbolic A-side, and I say symbolic because this is not an actual vinyl single, which would be cool. I would definitely purchase this. The symbolic side A is an original tune from Velvet Vision, Silver City. Love this tune. There's some video game like synths going on here, and the lyric video for this was straight out of Pole Position. I love that game. If you haven't seen that game, if you haven't played that game, I highly recommend it. And to watch the Velvet Vision video to go along with it to see the comparison. It's very interesting. Lots of pretty harmonies going on here, and I think that's the theme for this double single. Betty, Velvet Vision, has a way with harmonies. And on the B-side, there is Strange Magic, which is a cover of Electric Light Orchestra. I think this cover is one of my favorites covers of late. It's an ethereal spin to the 1975 classic, and there's some gorgeous vocal performances from Miss Betty Taylor, aka Velvet Vision. I cannot stop listening to this tune. It's unbelievable. I'm obsessed with it. It's a great tune to drive to walk around to, or just sit and think, which is how I approach music, really. I think about how can I incorporate this song into my daily life. Music is a huge part of my life. I think that's blatantly obvious. Listening to this show, I listen to music doing almost everything in my life. So Velvet Vision's music is applicable to every aspect, most aspects of my life. Walking, working, just sitting, and driving around. It's perfect. I haven't tried. It's not really a song I would exercise to, but that's okay. You know, most of the other things that I do, I can take Velvet Vision with me, which is very important. Sofia Cortezes. Now, this is the latest single from the Peruvian-bred, Berlin-based producer, singer-songwriter, and this tune is called Estación Esperanza. And it samples a Peruvian protest against homophobia. It's also dedicated to her mother, whom is pictured on the album art. Now, regarding the protests against homophobia, the vocal samples on this tune, it just makes me think of Pride parades. And June is coming up. It's about 4 months away from Pride, and I think this tune would be perfect for that. It has the energy of it. There's some pulsating grooves with flaring horns going on, and that's perfect for a parade and all the parties that go along with Pride. And I think any DJ on the LGBTQ scene should definitely think about and get into Sofia Cortezes. Perfect tune, perfect music for your parties for Pride. Moving on to Charlie XCX. She teamed up with Rina Sawayama for her latest single, Beg For You. I'm a huge fan of Rina Sawayama. I think she is the future of pop music. And this tune, Beg For You, is going to be on Charlie's new album, Crash, coming to us March the 18th. There's another album coming out March 18th, which we'll talk about later on today. Now, this tune is gorgeous. It is immensely catchy, and it showcases the great chemistry that Charlie and Rina have together. This is pop gold. And the chorus of this song largely interpolates the 2006 hit from September, Cry For You. And here's the thing, right? I kind of have an issue with songs, mostly pop songs, and it happens in hip hop too, and I think in rock and roll. I don't like large interpolations of other songs, because that large interpolation reminds me too much of the other song. Different from a cover. If you're a cover, we know that you're performing an older song. That's just established for a cover. But an interpolation, you're taking a piece of another song and you're putting it in your song, but it's literally a reference to another song. But again, it just reminds me of that other song. It makes me want to go listen to that other song. Now, this is different from a sample. Now, sampling, you're taking a little piece of a song and you're turning it into an original composition. Two totally different things. Not a huge fan of pop stars reinterpolating old pop songs, because again, it's going to make me think of the old pop song. But this Charlie XCX tune, Beg For You, is just fantastic overall. I've been listening to it a lot, even though it does remind me of this September song from 2006. But again, I prefer it if pop stars and artists in general kind of lean away from that. If you're going to sample away, but if you're largely just taking a melody, an entire melody of an old song, it's going to make me not want to listen to your song. That's all I'm saying about that. But I'm looking forward to this new Charlie XCX album. And definitely more songs with Charlie XCX and Rina Sawayama because they sound great together. Okay, so that takes care of January. Now, let's move on to February. And we're going to start things off with Conway The Machine. And I'm going to talk about the first and only teaser to his Shady Records debut, God Don't Make Mistakes, which is out right now. I haven't got a chance to hear the entire thing. I'm going to talk about John Woo Flick, and now it features his Griselda brothers, Benny the Butcher, and West Side Gun. Now, this song has, to me, a similar effect that the Jadakiss recent performance of his Who Shot Ya freestyle from Versus late last year, because it just kind of showcases that, lyricism is still important in hip-hop, and it kind of puts rappers, on their toes. It basically says rappers beware, and we all know, I think, it's obvious to point out the immense chemistry that the three Griselda brothers have, Conway, Benny, and West Side Gun. I still listen to their collaborative album, What Would Sheen Gun Do, that came out way back in the olden days of 2019. I still listen to it till this day. Hoping for an eventual follow-up. All three are very busy with their own solo project, which is great. But I would love to see another Griselda album. But this song, John Woo Flick, is just, it's gritty, it's grimy. And what's also interesting is that this is a pretty gritty song for, a major label album, because you don't really hear stuff like that anymore. When artists that come from a street background and they sign to a major label, they really clean up their sounds, a lot of the times. But Conway isn't. I don't know how God Don't Make Mistakes is going to shape out as a whole, but this is pretty gritty and grimy. It's kind of like 50 Cent when he debuted with Get Rich or Die Trying. That was a pretty gritty album, and that album was crazy mainstream. Like, even in the club, that's a street song, and it was everywhere. It was on MTV. It was as mainstream as you can get. It's still a hit till this day. I still hear it on the radio. But I'm really looking forward to this Conway the Machine album. I mean, more specifically, like, Conway's his verses are just, it comes from a place of pain, because, the Griselda guys, they grew up in Buffalo, and, they all came up through the streets, and it was just... You just kind of feel that listening to this, and again, I think it's just Conway just kind of putting rappers on their toes, and just telling people that he's like the best out here, which is great. I really respect that kind of confidence, and Conway backs it up. So looking forward to seeing what Conway and the rest of Griselda have in store for us in 2022. But I'm really obsessed with this John Woo Flick song. Now, let's talk about the complete opposite of Griselda, and that is Starbenders out of Atlanta. They're a four-piece from down south. And I think in recent years, they've been evolving and strengthening their glam rock sound without sounding too much like the past. They don't sound like T-Rex. They don't sound like David Bowie. Of course, you may hear a little bit of that, but they have their own little, sound going on, which I really appreciate. It sounds very futuristic, which I love. Their latest single, 7 White Horses, is all of that. And, again, as far as diving into the past, their music is like in the future. But, Kimmy Shelter, the front woman, is still rocking a lot of like vintage fashion, and the whole band too. But it's really cool. I really love what they're doing, because their earlier work, I've been a fan of this group for a long time. I've been following them for years, and they found me on Twitter. That's how I discovered them. They followed me on Twitter randomly, and I just been, keeping up with them. And I got to meet Kimmy Shelter a bunch of times, over the years, seeing her at shows, talking to her, picking her brain about music. They've been on My Little Underground before, and I hope to get them back on again, because there's so much more to talk about. And they're just, not only they are expanding their following, their follower count has just really grown over the years, and they are continuing to, evolve their sound musically, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they got in store. I'm really loving this 7 White Horses single. All right, moving on to Ravyn Lenae, the very sultry songstress. is back with a very new, sexy new single, Skin Tight. This song is so right to the bedroom. This is love making. I'm kind of glad this came out in February, with Valentine's Day and everybody just making love and all this good stuff. A lot of beautiful harmonies going on here, and it's very straight to the point. It's catchy, the arrangement that is, and I love it. It's very simple. There's not really much to say, and it's a good thing. It's not like it's one dimensional. It's just like it's very simple and to the point. It's beautiful. It's romantic. It's sexy, and you just keep it. It's a song to repeat over and over again. At least to me. Obviously, I listen to other things, but it's a song to go back to. That's my larger point. Okay, moving on to DOS, the New York City DJ producer, back with a new single, Jumpin', and it's just that. It's jumpin'. It has this very dark underground house club aesthetic. There's this heavy, low, groovy bass line that is just amazing. I love how this song is put together. It definitely puts electronic music in a shining light. There was the whole EDM thing from years ago, and there's a lot of one-dimensional tunes there, but this is not it. This song is layered, it's very dense, and I know DOS has been playing a lot of shows recently. She did a big show with Caroline Polachek in Connecticut. That's huge. Caroline's huge, and Caroline opened for Dua Lipa recently, and Dua Lipa is massive. It's crazy. So I see big things for DOS. She put out an EP last year, a series of singles. So, hey, whether you put out a full-length album or not, just release more great new tunes like Jumpin', and I'll be happy. Let's go out to Spain right now. Miss Rosalia is back with a new single, Saoko, off her new album, Moto Mami, and that's coming to us March 18th. This is the March 18th album I was talking about before. Same day as Charlie XCX, so this is going to be a good day. This Saoko single I just cannot get enough of. It is so beautiful. I love the jazz-like percussion in the intro, and it just kind of leads to this explosive reggaeton banger with Rosalia rapping in Spanish. This song is just amazing. It just fills me with adrenaline. If I didn't have my coffee yet and I put this song on, this is gonna help me. This is gonna get me over that hump until I eventually get my hands on a nice warm cup of Joe in the morning to start my day. So this tune, Saoko, is really getting me excited for this new Rosalia album. And I hope to see her live this year too. She's an amazing talent, has a beautiful voice, and the thing is, like, with this song, she's not really singing, she's kind of rapping. So I can't wait to see the rest of this album where Rosalia really showcases her vocal prowess that we know that she's just elite at. She is an elite vocalist. So really looking forward to what Rosalia has in store for the future. Obsessed with this Saoko tune. All right, Miss Grace Ives. She's got a new single, Loose, and she's been teasing music for a little while and going on tour after tour. And this tune is exactly, again, what the title calls for. It's very loose, it's free-flowing, it's a gorgeous dance pop tune, and it's a party, really. And it's just like her live shows. If you ever seen Grace Ives live, she's dancing and she's having an amazing time. She probably works out a lot because it takes a lot of energy to dance and then really sing at the same time. It's great, and this tune has a lot of sweet backing vocals all over the song, and it's really fun and a beautiful listen. To say that I'm anticipating new Grace Ives music is an understatement. Her last album was in 2019, I believe, and I'm waiting. I can't wait. I'm glad that she took a few years to really make some new tunes, because it's better to not overcook, I guess, cook your food well than just rush it out just to get it out. I'd rather wait a long time at a restaurant if the food is going to be well cooked. Same goes for music. All right. Now, here's two full-length albums that came out in February that I'm really enjoying and been listening to a lot recently. And First, we're gonna talk about Spoon. They put out a new album, Lucifer on the Sofa, their 10th album. Now, at first, I didn't like it all that much, but it's really growing on me. And I can say the same thing about Spoon in general. At first, I thought it was cool, but I didn't really, love them, but they just kind of grew on me. And I really like the singles to this album, Hardest Cut and Wild. But diving into the album closely, the opener, Held, is beautiful. Like, I really love that heavy piano section towards the end. And Devil and Mr. Jones is a beautiful tune here. Just talking about deep cuts on the album, and I love the Spoon's use of piano and keys. Like, especially my favorite album of theirs, Gimme Fiction. My Mathematical Mind there's a strong piano section on that tune as well. And I kind of love how Spoon plays with a lot of different instruments. That's really that's what's going on with Lucifer on the Sofa. And with Spoon, they've been making music for like 25 years. And they've been largely consistent with making really amazing albums. You can't say that with a lot of bands. Foo Fighters is another group like that. They've been around 25 years, still making great albums. But yeah, with Spoon, it's like the last decade, they've been making really, sharp and fresh albums. Like 2014's They Want My Soul sounds like a debut album. Like, they sound very hungry on that one. And Hot Thoughts, they were like experimenting, and they're, deep into their career. And this album is almost a return to form. It's not as experimental as the last two albums, but it's still pretty solid. It's still really good, And, from judging from Spoon standards and any album in general, there's not a lot of bands, that can make as good take your whatever your favorite band is. It's probably not as good as this new Spoon album. You know what I mean? And this is not the best Spoon album at all. And they've been a band 25 years, and they're still making pretty good albums. So I'm really happy for Spoon. I'm glad they're still going on and still making great tunes. Last but certainly not least, we have Empath. And their sophomore album, Visitor, came out earlier this month, and I've been listening to it a lot. I'm a huge fan of Empath, and they're just continuing their run of gorgeous pop, noise pop chaos that they started on their debut album, Active Listening Night on Earth, that came to us in 2019 in the olden days, way back when. This time around, they still have the crazy noise pop chaos, but they have a lot more mellow tunes here, like Passing Stranger. And I talked about a lot of the teaser tunes in previous My Little Underground episodes this year, and I want to get into a little bit of the deep cuts, like Elvis Comeback Special. Now, I know this was the last teaser they put out before the album came out, but it was so close to the album's release that I didn't really consider it a single all that much. And then there's 80s and the very ambient 5, which seems to me the sequel to 4 from Active Listening. And I think Empath is one of the most exciting bands out right now. They signed with Fat Possum, but they turned out an amazing follow-up sophomore album. Like I said earlier about, Empath and other bands, in regards to a band like Empath, like there are certain artists and bands that they put out a very promising debut album and they get more popular. Then they put out their second album, and then it's just boring. It's just nothingness. It's like you get this high level of fame, and then it's just you turn out boring music that gets high marks from music blogs, but it's just you're just making out nothing music. It's songs that just kind of blend in that you can play at a department store, and you just won't. You can't tell who it is. But Empath, that's not the case at all. They signed to a bigger label with Fat Possum, and they've made even more interesting music. They're just you can pick Empath out of a lineup. They don't sound like a lot of bands out now. When you hear Empath, that's Empath. You know what I mean? So I'm so excited to see what they're gonna do in the future. They're doing a tour with Modest Mouse and Fucked Up later this year, which is really cool. That's good for them. Being exposed to to a mainstream crowd like a Modest Mouse. Yeah, so Very excited about Empath. Go listen to that Visitor album. It is beautiful. And that's going to do it for the first on repeat of 2022 here on My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. You can follow me on socials at MLUpod. And don't forget to sign up for the monthly My Little Underground email newsletter. I wrap up the month's episodes of My Little Underground. And of course, I share a song that I can't stop listening to. And just like this show, this episode specifically with On Repeat, a lot of tunes that I am looking forward to. And of course, the tune that I'll share on my end of month newsletter may or may not come from the songs that I mentioned today. Probably, but probably not. You just have to find out. You can sign up for the newsletter, peteraradio.com/newsletter. Again, I'm Peter A. Thanks for listening to My Little Underground. Later days.